The Shetland archipelago lies far to the north of Scotland, at a latitude where the summer sun barely sets. The rugged coastline is a convergence point for the North Sea and the Atlantic Ocean. And the islands shelter a vast range of wildlife. They're home to the highest density of otters in Europe. And in the summer months, thousands of seabirds arrive to nest and raise their young. In winter, other species visit, fleeing bitter polar weather further north. Common and grey seals are resident here throughout the year and attract pods of Orca inshore. Shetlanders have been living alongside the island's wildlife since prehistoric times. But of the 300 islands and skerries, only 16 are inhabited. Bryden Thomason is a naturalist who has lived all his life in Shetland.
I've studied the island's wildlife all my life. One species in particular has always fascinated me, the otter. Otters were once hunted here for their fur, but since the hunting ban in the 1980s, their numbers have recovered well. This is the story of one family, following their lives throughout the seasons. In Shetland, most otter cubs are born underground in midsummer, safely hidden away inland. It's after about 2 months, when their mother introduces them to the shore, that their education really begins. Clearly, they have a lot to learn. At this age, and for many months to come, the cubs are entirely dependent on their mother. Otters can have up to 3 cubs and rarely 4. The number born depends on the amount of food available in the summertime. As I watch them, I wonder if they'll all survive. Winters are often wild in Shetland, and so conditions and indeed life can be extreme. Their mother has already begun weaning, and she's got a nice catch. She's cautious, checking for danger as she comes ashore, and she won't want to give away the cub's hiding place. There are 2 female cubs and 1 male cub in this family. They are all the same size for now, but eventually the young male will grow bigger than his sisters. mother otter is solely responsible for raising the cubs. While she's nursing, she needs a huge amount of energy to provide for the cubs and for herself. After a suckle for the cubs, she's off fishing again, leaving the three youngsters behind.
Winter comes early to Shetland. But otters must continue to fish for their cubs, whatever the weather. They rarely dive deeper than 10 meters and prefer to stay close to the coast. This is where Shetland's forests are to be found, underwater. Like trees, the kelp stands upright and photosynthesizes using the sun's energy. These kelp forests provide shelter for many species of plants and animals, including the fish species that otters feed on. Otters in Shetland prefer to hunt at low tide during the daytime, when their favorite prey is less active and easier to catch.
A lot of fish the otters catch are small, but occasionally they take bigger prey, like this auloch. Competition for food between siblings begins at an early age, with each wanting their share. When food is abundant, all the cubs eat well, but when it's scarce, it's not always the biggest cub who gets it. Sometimes tenacity wins. While the cubs eat on the shore, the mother has time to forage for herself. The bond between a mother and her cubs is very strong, perhaps because of the difficulties they face together in their bid for survival. But in a season where prey availability is low, otter mothers have been known to occasionally abandon a cub, presumably to invest better chances for the rest.
With October comes an influx of visitors. Hundreds of long-tailed ducks fly in from the north. Long-tailed ducks are unique in having 3 different plumages in the year, while all other duck species have only 2. They breed in the Arctic Circle, then migrate south to feed around Shetland's rich coastline and use the interior lochs as places to bathe and rest. The abundance of fresh water plays an essential role for many species living along Shetland's coast. This is one of the key reasons for Shetland's large otter population.
Otters need to wash their fur in fresh water regularly to remove sea salt. If they do not, their highly adapted pelt would lose all its functionality. Unlike other marine mammals, otters have very little fat. Instead, they are protected from the cold water by two extremely dense layers of fur. To maintain this protective property, the fur must be kept scrupulously clean and in excellent condition. And with over 60,000 hairs per square centimetre, it's a time-consuming task. By November, the cubs are doing well, and every week sees a difference in them. And that's thanks to their mother's experience, especially her fishing skills. This time, she's brought them in a codling. At about 5 months old, the cubs are at an age when they start learning to fish for themselves. Although they live on land, otters must find their food in the water and learn to master their aquatic environment. To catch fish, they have to learn to dive. But at this age, their fur is far too fluffy and buoyant, and so only allows them to get their heads under the water to watch Mum, whilst the rest of their body floats on the surface. They certainly appear to be willing to learn, but the process is slow. It must be frustrating for even the most patient of mothers, but she devotes her attention so the cubs learn the ways of the water.
Otter families all have their own territory along the coastline. The size of range and prey availability in it determines how many otters live there. An adult male's range may cover several miles of coast and includes 1 or 2 areas belonging to female otters whose home ranges are much smaller.
Keeping a watchful eye on his territory, a male, known as a dog, will patrol regularly. Intruding or challenging males are a constant threat. Otters mark their territory with their feces, known as sprints. Many scents are left in sprint, which is an important means of communication between otters. By copying their mother, the cubs learn to communicate with other individuals. The dog otter is following the family's tracks. While she has cubs, the mother will usually regard any male as a threat, even though he might be the cub's father. Male otters have been known to kill cubs. The cubs, of course, are unaware of this and more curious than frightened by the stranger. Mum is cautious, but she quickly decides that he's overstayed his short welcome. The visit is over, but the family won't have seen the last of him.
In Shetland, the month of November sees the island's grey seals come ashore to give birth on the beaches. Grey seal pups have distinctive thick white fur, a form of camouflage, passed down through generations since their ancestors' birth on ice fields. The pups have one of the shortest suckling periods of any mammal. They spend a mere 18 days with their mothers before they're left to fend for themselves. The bigger the pup when it's weaned, the higher its chances of making it through its first 12 months of life at sea. But while the seal has its white coat, it's unable to swim and risks being swept away by powerful waves in winter storms. At 3 to 4 weeks, the pup will molt, and its white fur will be replaced by a waterproof adult coat. Then it will head into the ocean, where it must learn to hunt on its own.
At just over 5 months, the otter cubs are still entirely dependent on their mother. They've grown bigger and more confident and move easily across the slippery rocks. The cubs haven't fully learned to fish yet, but they watch and learn by imitation. They keep close to their mother as she leads them out to forage. Shetland is surrounded by deep seas with strong currents and fast tides, and the cubs look intimidated by the waves. Although not yet as skilled in the water as Mum, it's a joy to see they are now able to dive. When underwater, they close their nose and ears, but rarely dive for longer than 30 to 40 seconds, as the cubs will soon learn. It's a crucial skill for them to learn ahead of the winter storms.
By December, Shetland is well in the grip of winter.
The exposed coast is a particularly dangerous place for the cubs, but they've learned to cope with the waves. They dive underneath to avoid getting caught up in the break and pop out on the other side. Their mother continues to provide them with food, as they're still not much good at catching fish for themselves. But to catch up with her, the cubs have to make it over the wave-swept rocks, another skill they haven't quite yet mastered. Offshore, I can hear a distress call. One of the cubs has been left behind. The mother has heard it too. The cub is trying to make it in, but is struggling against the waves. Amazingly, she's got it. It's moments like these that illustrate just how challenging an environment the family lives in here, and just how dangerous the elements can be. The mother's understanding of this is crucial to the cub's survival. It's often said that we shouldn't get too emotionally involved in the wildlife we study, but how can I not be in awe of these animals? Safety, warmth and shelter to rest after their ordeal. They return to their holt.
Otters will use pretty much anything they can find to make their dens or holts. Old rabbit warrens, cracks in the peat, boulder screes, even man-made structures. In Shetland, they're called hads. The archipelago lies directly in the path of low-pressure systems heading east off the Atlantic Ocean. Storm-force winds are not uncommon and create extremely dangerous conditions for otters along the coast. Because they have so few fat reserves, otters lose energy quickly in cold water. They have a high metabolic rate. Each individual needs to eat up to 1/3 of its body weight every day. Shetland lies at a latitude of 60 degrees north, so winter nights are long, but occasionally illuminated by the spectacle of the northern lights. In midwinter, there are a mere 6 hours of daylight, leaving little time to look for food.
It's a difficult time of year for all animals living on these windswept islands. Their ability to adapt will determine their chances of surviving until spring.
Offshore, long-tailed ducks feed mainly on shellfish and mollusks from the seabed. They're accomplished divers. Beating their wings in an underwater flight, they're known to reach depths of 60 meters.
The first months of the year here are the coldest and the most difficult period for an otter family. Food is often scarce at this time of year. Many of their favourite prey species have migrated out into deeper water to avoid the winter storms, just when their metabolic needs are the highest. When the availability of prey declines, the mother spends more time fishing but catches fewer fish. When she does bring in a catch, the cubs have to be quick off the mark. If one cub continually misses out on its share, eventually hunger will take its toll. It might not make it through the winter. By March, the days are at last getting longer, but it's been a long winter. One of the female cubs has not survived. In mainland Scotland, otters living along rivers have been known to live up to 16 years of age, the oldest known otter in the wild. In Shetland, where conditions are difficult, only half of them will make it past the age of 3.
Although otters are formidable predators in their own right, there is a much larger predator that comes to Shetland to hunt. Orca. This male's family is known to have been visiting Shetland for more than 10 years. They come from Iceland to hunt for seal. These transient orcas hone in on their prey in silence. They are apex predators that work together as a group to hunt their prey down. The seal chooses not to leave the water. It's a fatal mistake. The catch is shared amongst the pod, with each adult eating the equivalent of 1 seal per day. With an average pod size of up to half a dozen family members, that's a lot of seals.
It's spring. At last, the abundance of prey starts to increase as more fish return to the shallower coastal waters. The cubs are 8 months old and now fully weaned. The mother continues to bring them fish, but much fewer than before. Compared to other carnivores, otters take a long time to become proficient hunters, which is why they will stay with their mothers for a year or more. The female cub still has to learn how to hold on to slippery, sprickly live catch. It's not a simple task. But their mother makes it look so easy. The young otter's apprenticeship continues, and they are still following their mother's lead. They've learned the habit of cleaning their fur in fresh water in the moorland burns and streams. Even the most routine task can turn into a bit of fun. while the mother's away foraging. One of her favourite foods has returned to the coastal waters to spawn. Lumpsucker. The male guards his eggs in a nest he has chosen on the seabed. His pelvic fins are shaped like suction discs, so he can attach himself to the rocks. He's an easy target for an otter, especially at low tide. Otters have poor eyesight, but know their shorelines intimately. An unfamiliar shape is enough to attract attention. But with the wind in the right direction, my scent is blown inland. An adult otter can eat up to 2 kilos of fish a day, so this lumpsucker provides a very welcome meal. But this one is not for the cub. The cubs are now over 9 months old, and they start to see the family dynamic changing. It won't be long now until the mother pushes them away and they become independent. But for now, the sibling bond is still strong. Watching them forage together, I marvel at how well their mother has taught them, and I see just how far they have come from the fluffy and clumsy pitty cubs I found last autumn. But it will take them nearly 2 years to be able to fish as well as their mother. The young male focuses on slow-moving prey. Crabs may be easy to catch, but they are not so easy to eat. The young female is also enjoying a crab, but maybe not the fight it puts up. Like the male, she has yet to learn that the nutritional value they offer is not worth the energetic effort. This is a very common mistake for young otters to make, particularly in their first few months of independence. She returns to her mother's side. It looks like she's having a hard time accepting that her mother's catch is not always for her now. Mother and daughter will probably stay together for the rest of the summer, whilst the male cub spends more time alone and perseveres with the crabs.
Atlantic puffins arrive back on Shetland in April, and they're now in the middle of their breeding season. They spend more than 2/3 of their year out on the open ocean, and like all seabirds, return to land for one thing only: to raise their chicks. Puffins are monogamous breeders, and to stay safe from predators, they nest underground in cliff-top burrows. They can be preyed on by otters. Aquatic specialists, when the opportunity arises, otters are known to prey on rabbits, frogs, eggs, and birds. Although many seabird populations are in decline, gannet numbers on Shetland are increasing. Special adaptations, like air pockets in their necks, concealable nostrils, and reinforced skulls, allow these seabirds to plunge dive at speeds of up to 60 miles per hour. Gannets feed mainly on large shoals of mackerel, herring, and pollock, all of which are plentiful in Shetland's waters. The abundance of fish which support the seabirds also attract marine mammals like minke whale, the commonest whale in Shetland's waters. Over 22,000 breeding pairs of gannets raise their young on the cliffs of Hermanus, the most northerly point of the British Isles. Returning from a fishing trip with a full crop, the adult regurgitates its catch. It will be 10 weeks before the chicks lose their down and grow real feathers for flying. Fully grown birds have wingspans of nearly 2 meters, which enables gannets to be expert gliders. But the youngsters need to strengthen their flight muscles before embarking on their maiden voyage from their nest on the cliffs, hundreds of meters above the sea. Soon, they'll be ready for a 4,000-kilometer journey to spend the winter in waters off Africa.
The otter cubs are a year old. Late summer is a period of change for the Otter family. The emotional bond between mother and son has been broken. She no longer wants him around. This must be such a confusing time for an otter cub. For the past 12 months, their mother has been so attentive and caring, but now she rejects him. Soon, he'll be forced to leave. The resident male has returned. And he won't tolerate the presence of a potential rival. youngster puts up a fight, but he is no match for the fully grown male. If he wants to survive, he has to leave his family and the coast that has been his home. The mother has fulfilled her mission and has nothing left to teach her offspring. She has lost one of her cubs, but she succeeded in raising the other two. Her daughter is now independent, but she will remain here, sharing this territory with her mother all her life. Now adolescent, the young male has a long road ahead of him. Until he is fully matured and is strong enough to find a territory of his own, he will be nomadic. Each day is a challenge, since the coastline is divided into territories that already belong to other families. He finds a potential home, but the residents are nearby. This is a difficult period for a young otter. The world has suddenly become a hostile place. In a young male's quest for territory, he is at risk of being attacked, dying of hunger, and if venturing inland, being killed on the roads.
Though the human population of Shetland is sparse, vehicles pose a grave danger to otters. A high percentage of otters killed on the roads are adolescent males, and it is the biggest recorded cause of mortality for otters on the islands. But this otter might be one of the lucky ones.
If he manages to overcome the many struggles he will face and find himself a place to live, he'll have a future. Thanks to his mother, he now has every chance and looks to be on the right track. The rest is up to him.
Within another year or more, the otter cub might have found a territory of his own and father a new generation of Shetland's otters. And so continues the interwoven lives of the otters and the man who follows them through the seasons on these wild, beautiful, and remote islands.